Welcome back to Abounding Hope, a Hope for Addiction podcast. I am Liz Beck, and I'm here today with Shannon Graney. She is the director of our transition homes for women. And in the last two episodes, we have been exploring and talking about structure and accountability, why we shy away from that topic in the church. And we've also talked about a biblical understanding and how God is a God of order, and that there are clear distinctions in Scripture for us on how to live life and how it leads to human flourishing. And so there are good things that we can learn from structure and accountability. Mm-hmm. So in this episode, we're going to actually unpack a practical plan. So taking kind of what we've been talking about and making it very practical. And this is what we do every single day in our transition homes. And so one of the things that we've done to help equip people in the church is put together a 90-day accountability discipleship plan that can be implemented into the church. And so we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit, talk about the different categories of structure and accountability, how to think through that. And if you're interested in getting the accountability plan, it's on our website in our toolkit. There's a lot of resources that we've made available on our website. We have articles to help you think biblically about addiction. We have training videos, discipleship curriculum, and other resources just to help you to come alongside someone who's struggling with addiction. So we're going to look at this accountability plan, and I think setting the stage for just how to think about accountability as we think about it in the context of the church. I think when we're looking at it, we talked last time about accountability as being godly and in God's order rather than legalism. Mm-hmm. And so we want to definitely do that as we go through this. But as we think about accountability in family members, mm-hmm. it's tempting to think, oh, well, a parent should be the sole accountability, or the spouse should be. And so I think in the experiences that we've had, because sin has come in and disrupted God's perfect order, mm-hmm. relationships get really confused, and unhealthy and sinful patterns develop with control and manipulation and things like that. So initially, family members are not the best accountability. They can be a part of and add input, but really the accountability needs to be coming from outside the family dynamic. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, yeah, the ladies who come into the houses, often a lot of the suffering that they've experienced in their life has to do with family relationships. So that's not a possibility at all. A lot of times, they're not believers either. Mm-hmm. So we are the structure and accountability, and then we help them as they grow and mature. We help them think about how they want to move forward in those relationships, and for there to be healing and restoration if possible. But yes, certainly initially it needs to be a unbiased person that is on the outside through the gospel, helping them with that.
Yes, I think about even in my own marriage, where my husband having, addiction, especially with pain medications and things like that. And so when he would have a medication, in your thinking, yes, he shouldn't have access to it. Mm-hmm. And so it was always me being responsible to hide it and keep it away from him and only dispense it at certain times. And yet he would always find a way to find it, no matter how creative I got. And then the guilt I felt, I didn't do a good enough job. It was my fault, things like that. So that just creates even more of this unhealthy dysfunction and really taking me out of the role that God intended me to have as a wife. Mm-hmm. And so I think being able to kind of step back a minute and take a look at the big picture and realize that those immediate accountability structures are probably not initially the best on these kinds of things. Right. So once you have gotten that accountability team, if you will, in your church, being able to have, maybe 2 or 3 people, so that one person in the church isn't burdened too much by walking through these things with one person. And I think a pastor being involved in some capacity is always really beneficial.
Right. But there's a lot of moving parts in someone's life, the financial piece, the relational piece, the spiritual piece. So yes, a team is necessary.
Yes, absolutely. So that's an encouragement, right? To build a team. And this accountability plan actually helps you to do that. So once you have your team, like, what does that look like? And starting at just the very basics, like the first thing we do is the phone. Yeah. The phone is a big issue, right? So we want to consider, does the phone number need to be changed? Some people absolutely need to change their phone number. They need to look at the contacts. They need to block people. They need to delete their contact information, and not just simply giving that to them to do. You guys go do that. No, sitting with them, evaluating every contact. And this is where the beginning of wisdom starts to come. Who is this person in your life? Is this person someone who is going to help you move forward in your life, or is this someone who's going to be a potential barrier or temptation in your life? And helping them again with the basics of wisdom. Right.
Yes. It is the first thing, and maybe the hardest thing that women deal with as they come into the program. It's so hard for most women. And I think when they come in, and like you said, they need that quiet time to rest and break the cycle of chaos that they've been living in. They have this phone that is connecting them to their old life. And so obviously in wisdom, changing the number, deleting contacts, that kind of thing. And also social media can be a means of sort of numbing out to the reality of what your life has become. So that's an aspect too, which is very, very difficult for a lot of people, to just rest and sit with the reality of life, and just breaking that cycle, having some peace. But also it's hard. It's hard to sit in that, and it's hard to face the reality of what your choices have led to and that kind of thing. So that comfort, the phone is comforting in that way, but it's not what they need.
Right. And we talked about in the first episode about the protection piece, right? So again, this is a means of protection for them, that at a vulnerable moment, a person from their past texts them. And it doesn't take much, right? This is a vulnerability that they have, and this is a means of protection for them, because it's necessary. So again, this is how we want to think about this, rather than legalism or control, right? And then once we have the phone handled, right, and it's a safe thing for them to be using, establishing a daily phone call with their discipleship leader. Right. And then I think, again, where we want them establish the time, the day, or it should be every day, but what time is that call going to happen? Figuring out what works for everybody's schedule, and making sure that it's the disciplee who's initiating that phone call. We want to teach them to be true to their word, that there is somebody that is counting on them each day. And so some gentle reminders might be necessary to say, hey, we have a check-in today, but we want them to be responsible to make that call and initiate it. So what do you see the purposes of that phone call? Like, have you seen that be beneficial? Because I know when we initiated this in the houses, I didn't even anticipate how important and vital these daily phone calls would be.
Well, I think it helps them think through what they're thinking about, what they've woken up with on their mind that morning, what their mental and emotional state, talking through that. And it gives us an opportunity to know how we can help them in that, and think through it biblically, whether they're upset or excited or whatever the case may be. Just getting to know them, it helps us know them better. It helps them have a comfort level with us, developing a comfort level with us, and communicating, just examining their own heart and being able to communicate that to somebody else. I think a lot of people don't know how to do that. And certainly a lot of the ladies who come into the house that's never been part of the reality. So yeah, it just helps us know where they're at and helping them think through things biblically, know how we can be praying for them and even pray with them right then on the phone call about whatever it is that they have on their mind that day. And then kind of asking them what their plan is for the day, thinking through that. They have a schedule, but just what they're thinking through and what the next thing is, and just the practicals of that too.
Yeah, I think the daily phone call, you're getting glimpses into the everyday and how valuable that is versus just a weekly meeting.
Right.
I remember when we first initiated, it was because one of the ladies was struggling, and there was a pattern that we were all seeing that she viewed God as angry with her. And so we talked to her about it. She's like, no, I don't think God's angry at me. And she could, explain why. And so it was in those daily phone calls where she was explaining to me how she was thinking through things. And I was like, but do you see that is how you see God angry with you? And so when you see God is angry and disappointed at you, you're not going to run to him. And it was a pivotal moment in her life that in the conversations throughout the week, it was like, no, that's not an issue. But in real time, she was able to see that really was. And it set her free in that, because then she was able to actually go, no. So we worked on, Psalm 86, the Lord, God is patient and steadfast love. And it was just it was a very pivotal, life-changing moment for her. So those daily phone calls are important for those kinds of things. And then if you're, not used to these kinds of conversations, we have a conversation guide in the plan. Things like, wanting to understand what's their temptation to use. So you can ask questions like, hey, with all the changes, all the pressures, trying to find a job, all the things that are going on in your life, like what's your desire for escape right now? Or what's your temptation to use? And being able to just talk them through and understanding more about how drugs and alcohol are a part of their process, and being able to bring them then to the Lord and how the Lord meets them in that. And then also, because they don't have a housing component like we do, evaluating, is this person needing additional accountability? Do we need to make sure that one of the team is with them, spending the evening at their house, or vice versa, or whatever? Just making sure, do we need to take the keys to make sure that they're going to be safe? Like those are the kinds of evaluations that can happen in those phone calls. Asking about, what's consuming your thoughts? Like, how are you thinking about getting a job? Are you hearing anxiety, or are you hearing faith? And then again, just connecting that back to the Lord, and anticipate things that are challenging for them. So maybe you have an adult child who's been at rehab and they just came back home. How are you doing getting back into the routine of being at home? What's the dynamic like? How are you feeling? Do you feel like your parents are hovering and or they're angry at me and they don't trust me? And so, okay, well, why do you think they don't trust you? And like, can you see that you need to have patience with your parents? This is hard for them too. Like those are just the kinds of things that those daily phone calls just help you. And it's establishing trust between them. And then when the person is in a moment of struggle where they would just check out or whatever, no, I'm used to calling. I'm just going to call. And so those phone calls are not foreign. Those conversations are easier.
Comes more naturally.
Yes. And then the weekly discipleship. So don't overthink discipleship. Sometimes discipleship is very practical and just helping someone get that routine established. So giving them a little bit of time to find a job, get settled in their home. And so we don't overwhelm people with a lot of scripture reading or discipleship, just starting with New Morning Mercies by Paul Tripp, simple gospel application. Yes. And then helping them, with just getting that stability. And once they have some stability, starting a curriculum that's still very simple gospel truth, that's connecting them back into their heart issues and things like that. And so we have great curriculum that helps with that and has great questions for the leaders that is going to dig into some of those heart issues and things like that. And thinking about discipleship is not just accountability to stay sober, but really helping them with an understanding of the gospel. Yeah. And I think a lot of times in other programs, the focus is just staying sober. And that's not what we're doing. Right. Sobriety is a result of a changed heart. And so we want to bring them back to what Christ has done, the freedom that is available in Christ, and living that, and then helping them to be intentional about keeping their commitments. Being able to go, and I have this meeting, I need to get there. So the weekly discipleship. I mean, what have you seen as beneficial in those discipleship relationships?
Well, I think just as you said, that accountability to be in the Word, to be doing a devotion every day. This is a foreign practice a lot of times to people. So it's accountability for that so that they can learn what it feels like to be spending intentional time with God and hearing His Word and praying. And maybe they would have a hard time doing that on their own at first, but then there's somebody there helping them, keeping them accountable for that. And
helping them understand.
And helping them, right, because they might be assuming they understand it. So, talking it through with somebody so that they can get clarity on the gospel and not assume things and maybe have a misunderstanding that they take away. So, that's really important.
Okay, that's great. So, schedule. This is a big part of what we do. And the ladies prepare and evaluate a schedule every week. And I think this is really important even in the context of the local church. So talk about the schedule and how that works at the houses.
So every week they must make a schedule for the coming week. And it helps them think through every day and then the days together where they're not used to thinking through cause and effect of what they decide to do with their time and how that affects the rest of the week and their kids and bedtimes and all of that. So it gives us an opportunity to go over it with them and think that through. And if there's something that they thought seemed like a good idea, but it really isn't the best idea, like maybe it's a good thing, but not the best thing, for the family, helping them think through that with wisdom. We don't just say, oh, no, you can't do that. That would be legalistic and controlling. But no, we're helping train them towards thinking through themselves and being able to bring peace and ease to their life because they've thought through things intentionally ahead of time instead of reacting to things as they come.
Right. And then also being able to evaluate, is someone too busy? Is someone not busy enough?
Right.
Because you'll find one will go, people will tend to lean to one to the other. If they're too busy, they're just staying so busy, they don't have to think about life, they don't have to process anything. And then those who are not busy enough, I mean, are they serving in the ways that they need to serve? Are they taking care of their responsibilities? And then we see people who have, they're better with their schedule, but they're terrible with their money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So looking at each person. So some people may need literally, like we have them put on there when you're doing your chores.
Yes.
Because they can't even schedule time to do their chores. So again, what does that person actually need? Do they need to schedule their responsibilities other than just, social activities? Do they need to actually put in there, this is when I'm doing my counseling homework. This is when I'm doing my discipleship homework. This is when I'm taking care of my chores. This is when I'm going to go have my car serviced. Literally, some people need that.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
they can't. But they're developing good habits.
Yep.
And they don't have to do this forever.
Right.
This is just establishing this for them for their life.
Right. A way to think through things. So it's training wheels that may eventually be taken off. That they can just keep going with it.
Right. And social activities are important. Like we should not forsake those social activities, but realize that they don't know how to have friendships. They don't know how to have fun outside of these, drug situations or whatever. And so we need to teach them what fun looks like and including them in our social activities so that they can learn those good and fun things that are still God honoring and are still part of fellowship and things like that.
Or if we're helping them with their parenting, some moms maybe avoid the parenting piece a little bit by being so busy with the activities with their kids. And, there's not as much maybe discipline and that type of thing needed if you're busy out doing things all the time. So helping them look at their schedule and say, okay, we need to, as we say, be happy at home and be able to deal with disciplinary issues that may come up and not just be distracted. It helps their kids live the same way.
Yes, so good. And some of the things you want to think about, is this an ongoing pattern, right? Like just always adding in something that they didn't think about.
Yes.
And so helping them with that. And, is this something that you should have anticipated? So let's say no this time, so that you can remember that you need to think through fully your week. And then, is it an activity that needs to be done now, or is it something that can be done later? Like those are just the kinds of things. Or even good things may not be beneficial at that time.
Right.
And I think an example of that is one of the ladies. She was doing great. She was growing, but she definitely, the way that she thought through things was challenged. Like she got overwhelmed very easily. She had a wonderful, godly discipleship leader, and there was a class at church on a Saturday, and she really wanted to go. And I just, we talked about it as a staff, and it just wouldn't have been good for her. It would have caused confusion, and we were just trying to get a stable foundation of the gospel, just really get that solidified. And so we said no. And it was hard for her, but explaining to her, like, there will be another class and you will get there. And I love that you want to have more knowledge of God, but this one wouldn't be good for you.
Yeah.
And now she's doing great. She's done with the program. She moved out of state, and she still sends me pictures. Do you think this is a good book? I want to make sure I'm learning rightly. Or she'll call and she'll just say, hey, I just need you to set me back on track. And so, like, those are good things that we're establishing in them, because now she's like, she sees the value of, I want to make sure that what I'm reading is good and right. Okay, life skills. This is another one that is going to vary person to person. So getting a job, that's a big one. So some considerations with the job.
Yeah, some people just need a lot of help with that, with resume and what that even looks like, to go pound the pavement and look for a job, and then thinking through, especially if they have children, like, what's logistically possible for them. Like, how far away is it from the house? How far away is it from the school? What are the hours? You can't work too many hours because you're a mom, but you can't work too little hours because you need to be able to afford the expenses that you have here for your life. And so helping them through that practically.
Well, I think even just like someone who's just in the church, right? Do they have transportation?
Right.
What are their skill levels? Do they have felonies? Right. So even helping them with a realistic view of what kind of job is possible for them.
Right.
And so those are things that we really do need to help them with, right?
Yes.
Like, well, you can't, if you don't have a car, how are you going to get to a job that's 20 miles away?
Right.
Right. And is there a bus? And then does that, there's just so many factors that they need help to process through.
Yes.
All right. And then even looking at their skills around the house, chores, menu planning.
Right.
So again, just depending on who you're helping, those may be considerations that they need help with.
Yeah, some people just never were raised with any concept of nutritional meal planning and cooking and that kind of thing. So things that maybe a lot of people might think, oh, that's just basic, and somehow you just pick it up through living life, growing up and living life has not been a reality for them. So we have them make a meal plan so that we can help them think through nutritionally balanced meals. And then also that goes into the budget piece, where they're thinking through their grocery list and what is feasible, what they can afford, and that kind of thing. And then with their children too, preparing their children nutritionally balanced meals is an important thing too.
Yeah, and then with life skills, you think about, like, so many. We had one lady who put a paper towel in the oven, and she just didn't know, right? And that caught on fire. And one who put a cardboard that wasn't fireproof in the oven.
Yes.
Or one lady, she sauteed lettuce, which I was like, hey, well, good, that's creative.
Right.
But there's things that, and if you're living life closely with them, you'll start to see these things. So don't be afraid to support them in this, right? These kinds of things, and cleanliness. We're constantly teaching women how to clean properly.
Yes.
They don't think about changing the oil in their car. Like, there's just so many things that we do in life that many of the people that we're caring for, because of the lifestyle that they've had, they haven't had these experiences, and they simply don't know.
Right.
And so it's again loving for us to be aware of these areas of need in their life and enter into and support them in that.
And I think sometimes people feel like we're being picky about things initially, but then I've gotten so much good feedback. I remember one lady said to me, I will never not do my dishes right after the meal and just dry them, put them away, be done with them. She's like, I just love that. No one ever told me that, but I'm going to do this the rest of my life.
Right. And we hear that a lot, right? They get out and they're like, oh, I'm going to go do all these things. And then they come back and they're like, wow, what you taught me, I need that. Can you help me get back on track here in my life? Because I didn't appreciate it so much when I was there. But now that I'm on my own and I have all these responsibilities, I see such value in those things that you taught. Right. And so, again, these are loving and good things.
Right.
And then money, budget, the thing that none of us like to look at. But working together to create a budget. And I think, a lot of people, again, with this, lack of responsibility, just doing whatever, they don't have any idea how much money they're spending on anything. And so tracking, we are pretty strict at the beginning. They have to keep their receipts. We look at their bank account and we see exactly what are they spending, so we can help them to evaluate. We can help them to stay within a budget, not get into debt, to start paying off debt, things like that, and helping them with what's responsible. And like, if you don't make a lot of money, you can't just be eating out all the time, right? That's the reality for all of us. And we have to make sacrifices. Well, I really want this or need this thing, but I'm going to have to make cuts somewhere else in order to make that happen. So again, that responsibility and thinking through and making wise choices.
Right. And helping them. I think some of them get stuck thinking, well, I'm just a person that's never going to have anything or can never build anything. And I remember talking to one young lady who wanted to buy yet another stuffed animal. And I said, we talked about the reality of her finances. And I said, I feel that you probably think you will never truly be able to afford a car. So it just doesn't matter. You might as well buy all the stuffed animals you want because you'll never actually be a person that can afford a car. And she said, yeah, that is what I think. And so we just talked that through, and how the little numbers make the big numbers. And it's really exciting to see people turn the corner on that and realize that it's not that they're not a person that can afford to buy a car or something like that. It's just that they never learned the skills to they didn't know how people get to the point where they can afford a car or afford a house, or, just these, not necessarily, being wealthy, but just being able to manage and live without constant financial anxiety.
And that's why those daily phone calls, like the close living life together closely, allows you to have those insights, to actually look at patterns and be able to go, wait, is this, and be able to bring, again, just truth to them. And how it actually is so beneficial for them to be able to think through and be responsible and start to build a life that is good, and orderly.
Absolutely.
Well, as you listen to a plan like this, maybe it sounds too structured for your comfort level, maybe strict or restrictive, or maybe even controlling. Maybe you're still one of those that feels like this is still too controlling or legalistic. But remember why the guardrails exist. It's not about control, but it really is about care. And for someone who's lived in chaos for so many years, structure is really a gift. You're giving them a gift that they maybe don't even know that they need. So providing stability where there has been instability, building trust, and being able to create an environment where someone can finally slow down enough to begin to think clearly and respond to the gospel. And that's really what this topic is all about. And what we've learned over many years of caring for people in addiction is that this kind of intentional, structured discipleship is one of the most loving things that people in the church can do. being willing to get in close enough to see where real needs are. And when in our first episodes talking with the Tongs, it wasn't until they got close enough to see our need, and they were able to be with us in our need. And this is not any different. And so the goal is that someone would come to know Christ as a result of these things. Like, these practical things are going to be beneficial, but it's never disconnected from the gospel.
Amen.
Right? And we want them to learn to live a life that reflects order and beauty of God,
Yes.
right? And to be motivated to glorify God in their life in all ways. So if you're a church leader, a friend, or a family member is wondering how to help someone in early recovery or coming out of a traumatic relationship, we hope that this conversation gives you confidence that you can step in, that you can help, that structure and accountability is good and loving. And you don't have to do it perfectly, but intentionality and a biblical framework and love and support is what we're trying to do. And if you would like to have some help building a plan like the one that we've described today, you can find the Early Recovery Discipleship Plan in our toolkit on our website, as well as all the other resources that we have. If you have questions about this topic or future topics that you would like us to talk about, you can email us at aboundinghope@hopeforaddiction.com. Shannon, thank you for being with me to talk about all of this. Your wisdom and your insight is so helpful, and you do such a great job with the ladies, and they just adore you so much. And I'm so grateful that you are there caring for them, that you have an understanding of how important this structure is, and really helping them with this, as well as applying the gospel to all of these areas. So thank you for the way that you serve so many of the ladies.
Well, it's a privilege. It truly is.
Well, thank you for joining us for this conversation, and we hope that you've been equipped a little bit more to be able to enter into situations that maybe feel too big for you, but they're not. And you don't have to have all the answers. Just step in and see what the Lord will do. So we'll see you again on the next episode of Abounding Hope.